She makes it to first period, no one notices. Then on to second period, all good. Then she makes it through PE, still not caught. Now she's making it through lunch. Meanwhile, Juju's friends, they're up to this woman. Let's call her Freaky Friday.
Hey, go, boing, 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 boing.
Choose translate.
So this woman, let's call her Freaky Friday. Still not caught. Now she's making it through lunch.
But a 30-year-old disguising as the other teen-year-old made it through lunch.
Meanwhile, Juju's friends, they're all in on this. They're helping Friday navigate the school and find her classes. Then the moment finally comes. She makes it to 7th period, which is her final class, and the class goes well. But suddenly, 7th period teacher notices something off. So he asks, Juju, can you stay after class? And Friday says yes. So the end of class comes and all the other students are gone, and the teacher looks at her and says, you're not Juju.
I finally got caught. I told him that I would go to the principal's office, so I guess we're gonna see what happens.
So she ends up going to the principal's office, but there doesn't seem to be any real consequences. But more importantly, she goes home, and the next day, she uploads all that footage to YouTube. And of course, the video blows up. And the internet is not on her side. An adult shouldn't sneak into a middle school. That's just creepy. She's there looking for a husband. So she's getting a lot of pushback on this video. But then, it gets worse. The story is all over the national news. Now, to be clear, Friday says she did all this not for internet fame, rather as a social experiment to prove that our schools aren't secure enough.
We need better security in our schools. This is what it says.
Now, whether her cause was noble or not, didn't seem to matter, because that video went on. The next day, guess who shows up at her front?
Hi, officer. Can I help you? What made you guys come down? Besides the viral video.
So she gets arrested, and here's her mugshot. She goes to court, she's found guilty of criminal trespassing, and she ultimately gets community service and a fine. By the way, this was 2 years ago, and she still makes videos with her daughter sometimes. Shout out to El Paso, Texas. Freaky Friday. Now this guy, let's call him Heisenberg. Heisenberg has a problem. He really doesn't like his upstairs neighbor. This guy. Now Umar has a wife and baby, and they live in the apartment above Heisenberg. And when they're in their apartment, they apparently make a lot of noise. And it drives Heisenberg insane. But Heisenberg, he's polite about it. He asks Umar to please walk slower, don't move chairs around at night, because all of it wakes him up. And Umar says sure, but it still doesn't help. So he continues to complain to Umar every time he hears something. Heavy footsteps, a vacuum cleaner running, a dresser drawer opening, someone drops their phone, even a squeaky toilet seat. Heisenberg can hear all of it. Now Umar, he's trying to address it every time Heisenberg complains. He buys cushioned shoes, he buys several rugs to muffle his footsteps, but Heisenberg can still hear everything and he's still muffled. And he's still trying to get his PhD in chemistry. He needs his sleep. Now eventually Heisenberg gets random. So Umar and Umar go into Heisenberg's apartment to see if they can hear any of the noises themselves. Well, Umar Heisenberg tries doing extreme internet pranks. Boy, he does a lot of them. Like one where he pretends to steal people's dog, jumping over random strangers in public, getting into a stranger's car and pretending it's an Uber. Excuse me. All while loudly proclaiming, "We outside." Outside! Outside! And then, one day, everything changes for Jizzy. He decides to pull this prank, walking into a random stranger's house. And this prank is so absurd, it blows up overnight. And suddenly, he's everywhere. He's on the front page of Reddit, commentary YouTubers are talking about it, I made a video talking about it, and from all this newfound attention, Jizzy starts getting a lot of heat. But does he feel bad?
I go to the next one. I like doing them.
Of course not. People are finally watching him. But you know who else was watching him? People who run the social media platforms. Because suddenly, kablow, all his social media gets banned. And the police are watching his videos too. And now, so this TikToker, let's call him Jizzy. Now, Jizzy really wants attention, but there's a problem. He doesn't have any real talent or skills, so he tries doing extreme internet pranks. And boy, he does a lot. Like one where he pretends to steal people's dogs, jumping over random strangers in public, getting into a stranger's car and pretending it's an Uber. Excuse me. All while loudly proclaiming, "We outside." And then, one day, everything changes for Jizzy. He decides to pull this prank, walking into a random stranger's house. And this prank is so absurd, it blows up overnight. And suddenly he's everywhere. He's on the front page of Reddit, commentary YouTubers are talking about him, I made a video talking about him, and from all this newfound attention, he starts getting a lot of heat. But does he feel bad?
I don't know. I like doing something.
Of course not. People are finally watching him. But you know who else was watching him? People who run the social media platforms. Because suddenly, kablow, all his social media gets banned. And the police are watching his videos too. And now, so this TikToker, let's call him one day, this guy, Mohammed, he's working a food truck. And then this guy shows up causing problems. Now let's call him Pops. Now Mohammed, he's a Muslim. And Pops, he really doesn't
Your daughter, like Muhammad did, the Holy Quran that some people use in the toilet. That's why you're selling food in a food cart. Sure.
Now, Mohammed and the guys who work at the food cart, they report Pops to the police. So this TikToker is really popular, but she has a problem. This guy wants to expose her as a fake. Now, let's call her Scorpicorn. Scorpicorn does astrology readings. One day, she puts out
They're just like having the best love life in 2020.
so that video blows up, and that gets the attention of the guy, who we'll call Rebel. So this TikToker, her name's Dr. Roxy, and she's a plastic surgeon, she has her own clinic, she's very successful. But that's not enough. She really wants to relate to her patients. So this woman, let's call her Bull. And Bull has a big problem. This woman, let's call her Popo. She gets into a confrontation with this man. She saw him parking in an alley near her. She didn't like the way he parked, so she goes...
That's my stuff,
and
was
the
it?
guy, let's call him Worker. Worker ignores her.
Oh, my stuff goes crazy. Oh, I just live in it.
And Popo,
Oh, my stuff crazy. Oh my god, my stuff's crazy. Hey.
So Worker, he reminds
Whoa,
her again
my
that
stuff is crazy.
so this TikToker, his name's Sam. So this Italian YouTuber, he messed up big time. So this TikToker, his name's Chosen. So this British Instagram model, let's call him Pikachu. Now Pikachu is living the big influencer lifestyle. He's traveling all over the world, Greece, Los Angeles. He's always got the newest drip, like wearing that, and whatever that is. And people are like, wow, how can he afford all this? Dude must be really successful. Regardless, he's living a great life. Until one day, Pikachu takes a little trip to Peru for a little vacation. He hits up Cusco, Lima, Machu Picchu, and when his trip is over, he goes to the airport to leave. And he's checking into his flight. And two officers suddenly approach him, and they want to talk to him. But allegedly, Pikachu's Spanish isn't that good, so he's confused. So the two officers, they take him into a room, and they make him sit down. And they have his suitcase, and they take all of his stuff out of it. And this officer starts, like, tearing the suitcase up, and he runs some quick tests, and that's when they find and Pikachu, he's so confused. He's like, a substance? It doesn't look like he knows what's going on. And then the officer rips up the suitcase. So this British Instagram model, let's call him Pikachu. Now Pikachu is living the big influencer lifestyle. He's traveling all over the world, Greece, Los Angeles. He's always got the newest drip, like wearing that. So this TikToker goes by the name Vegan Rants. And one day, the worst thing ever happens to her. She's in her favorite coffee shop. She films there all the time. The owners of that shop, these guys, they see this, and they approach her, and they tell her to stop filming. They don't want her filming there. They don't want their business to be in the background of her TikToks. Now, she doesn't need to leave. She just can't film. So this YouTuber, his name's Trevor. He makes a lot of extreme sports content. And one day, he decides to do something a little different. He's going to take his plane out and spread his friend's ashes over the mountains. But then, suddenly, things go wrong. Like, really wrong. Mid-flight, the plane's engine cuts out.
Come over the mountains, get out of here now.
So Trevor has no choice. He's got to abandon the plane. But fortunately for him, he has a parachute on, and he makes it to the ground with so ultimately, he's safe. Oh, but this isn't over. That is when the investigations start. Now, the FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board, they investigate every plane crash, big or small. So they look into this, and weirdly, they can't find any wreckage. Like, he was in the middle
that's
of the
my
go,
boat.
but
That's
all
my
seem
boat.
to have disappeared. So they hit up Trevor, and they're like, hey, where did your plane go down exactly? But Trevor can't seem to remember. Now, the investigators, they're smart, and they know something's up. They are not going to let it go. But about a month later, Trevor cuts all his footage into one long YouTube video. And so this YouTuber, his name's Trevor, and he makes a lot of extreme sports content. One day, he decides to do something a little different. He's going to take his plane out and spread his friend's ashes over the mountains. But then, suddenly, things go wrong. So Trevor has no choice. He's got to abandon the plane. But fortunately for him, he has a parachute. So in the plane. So this woman, let's call her Delulu. So Delulu is a singer, and the album she was on just got nominated for a Grammy. But one day, Delulu hears a voice, and she's on a flight, and the plane is still in the ground. But she hears a voice, and it's her God, who I assume looks like this. And her God tells her she needs to sing on the plane, but not like in her seat. He says she needs to get up and sing in the aisle where the whole plane can hear her. I guess he was very specific. So she gets up and goes to the aisle, and she's about to sing, and that's when she's spotted by this guy, flight attendant. And flight attendant's like, let me stop you right now. And he makes her go back to her seat. Oh, but the Lulu isn't done.
Haven't done this in a while. I've gotten to the next status, so
Are you going to be quiet?
they're enjoying it. So I'm gonna sit here and
I'm not even. I'm asking you, can you be quiet?
Now, Delulu's not going to give up so easily. Now, remember who told her to sing.
do what the Lord is telling me.
I'm asking you a question, yes or no. I'm your flight leader. I need you to follow my instructions. My instructions for you to answer my question. Are you able to be quiet?
Treat me like royalties.
I'm asking you.
So this woman, let's call her Delulu. So Delulu got nominated for a Grammy. But one day, Delulu hears a voice, and she's on a plane. The plane is still on the ground, but she hears a voice, and it's her God, who I assume looks like this. And her God tells her she needs to sing on the plane, but not like in her seat. He says she needs to get up and sing in the aisle where the whole plane can hear her. I guess he was very specific. So she gets up and goes to the aisle. She's about to sing, and that's when she's spotted by this guy, flight attendant. And flight attendant's like, right now. He makes her go back to the seat. Oh, but the Lulu isn't done.
Haven't done this in a while. I've gotten to the next status, so
Are you going to be quiet?
they're enjoying it. So while we're sitting here, can I please?
I'm not enjoying it. So I'm asking you, can you be quiet?
Now, the Lulu's not going to give up so easily. Now, remember who told her to sing.
Do what the Lord is telling me to do.
So this is Sasha, and he's a successful guy. And he lives in this big old house, and he decides to rent out this. So this is Brianna. And Brianna's living her best life. She's married to a great guy. So this TikToker, her name's Catherine. And Catherine's living a great life. She's tight with her family. She just gave birth. So this influencer's probably going to jail. Now, his name's Alfred. And one day, Alfred's hanging out with his buddy, Kingston. And they want to make a TikTok. But they have a big problem. They're just not that creative. So they put their two brain cells together and they finally land on one idea. It's going to be big for them. So then they head over to a nearby park and film this idea. And this is where things get bad. It turns out their big idea is to run up to unsuspecting people in the park and sucker punch them. So they try it on this guy and they run up to him and... Now obviously I can't show you this part, but I can show you how the guy reacted. Now, if you pause the video and zoom in, the man appears to maybe be in his 50s. Oh, but don't worry, guys. It gets worse. About 45 minutes later, they find another unsuspected man, and they do it again. And yeah, again, I can't show you, but you get it. Now, it's not clear which guy they did it to, but allegedly, Alfred threatens one of these two with a pew-pew, saying he'll blast him in the foot if he doesn't hand over his iPhone. Now, that part's not on video, so I can't confirm. But what I can confirm is that, so this influencer's probably going to jail. Now, his name's Alfred, and one day, Alfred's hanging out with his buddy, Kingston, and they want to make a TikTok.
Bro.
But they have a big problem.
No.
They're just not that creative. So they put their two brain cells together and they finally land on one idea. It's going to be big. So this influencer, her name's Coco. So Coco, you're not going to believe why this woman, Joanne, is internet famous. One day, back in the day, her parents buy this house. And they love this house. It's in a quiet neighborhood. They create incredible memories there. But then, one day, after 35 years of living there, it all changed. Some Hollywood producers approach her, and they really like her house. And they want to film a TV show there. So they pay the family a bit of money, and they let them film there. But then, to everyone's surprise, that TV show, it ended up being a massive hit. In fact, you probably heard of it. Now, the show becomes so popular that the address to the house gets posted online. And of course, fans just start showing up, which might seem like a fun novelty, but then they start coming in droves.
24/7, 365, we have people who get harassed. Nobody anticipated that.
They take pictures of the house at all hours of the night. They trespass. They steal rocks from the landscaping as a souvenir. Some people even try and throw pizza on the roof because of that famous scene from the show. Now, Joanne, the daughter, she's the one who lives there. And you're not going to believe why this woman, Joanne. So this guy here is Bubba. And this guy, his name is Steven. So this TikToker, his name's Ken. And Ken is on his way to success. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers. He just co-founded a startup company. That company's making like a social calendar app. Things are looking good for him. Until One night, he goes out to a bar, and as he's walking home, a random creepy car pulls up next to him and asks him if he wants a ride. Then, 6 weeks later, it happens again. Creepy car pulls up, offers him a ride. So Ken makes a TikTok talking about all this.
Not take free rides from strangers. People are going missing.
And that TikTok blows up, getting a lot of attention. From that point, his TikTok content changes. And he becomes sort of a true crime investigator. And all his videos become about investigating a string of mysterious deaths across the country.
I know how they're going missing, and I know what we can do about it.
And from there, things escalate quickly. He makes a lot of videos. He says there's a group of serial killers out there targeting young men who are out late in the Chicago area. Shout out to Chicago. He's like pulling up maps. He's connecting all the dots. Then he takes all this information to the police.
Please don't do it.
So this TikToker, his name's Ken. So this TikToker is and he wants to join his team. In all black, getting millions of views. Then he takes all this information to the police.
Police don't see this as a problem. They try to throw me out of the meeting.
And police are no help, but his fans rally behind him because he is going to solve this case. And along the way, each of these videos is getting millions of views. And he's getting a lot of new fans. His account gets 7 million followers. And he is quickly becoming like a true crime king of TikTok. And pretty soon, like a man dressed in all black comes knocking on his door late one night. And he's a private investigator, and he's looking into the same string of murders. And he wants Ken to join his team.
I'm help her a lot with their tech stuff, with the map building.
And at one point, even the FBI tried to recruit him.
Hey, we want you to be a part of the next generation of elite special agents.
And eventually, after all that work,
Last night at 3 in the morning, I cracked the case.
and he ends up connecting all those murders to a group of serial killers called the Smiley Face Killers. But then, one day, during the middle of all this, he posts something weird. It's an ad for the social calendar app he co-founded.
For the last 8 months or so, I've been building this app.
And around the same time, people look at all this and they start to go, okay, hold up. And people start to get skeptical. Specifically, this woman got skeptical, Meredith. Now, Meredith doesn't like Ken. She thinks he's full of shit. So she does a deep dive, and she finds a post from Ken's social calendar app company. And it's bragging about how his true crime murder TikToks caused a surge in downloads for his app, and how he plans to do more.
If we needed any more proof that what Ken is doing is really just a marketing strategy for his app,
Then, this guy, Justin, who was an actual investigator in the military, he starts making TikToks calling Ken out.
Sick and disgusting, Ken.
Now, both Meredith and Justin make quite a few really quickly, the tide turns against him. And people start poking holes in the stories. Like, they're pointing out that some of the deaths he's talking about have already been solved and ruled an accident. They point out that the Smiley Face Killers is kind of a long-running, debunked conspiracy theory. They're pointing out that the emails the FBI sent were just automated, generic recruitment emails that they send to everyone. And all this heat starts to build up. And it builds, and it builds. And, like, within a few days, I guess Ken decides he can't take it anymore.
I'd like to take a moment to address something that has come to a head over last week.
And he says he's got to give up true crime investigating on TikTok. And he makes an apology video.